Hello. Welcome. I have it half set up for Christmas right now. It's not also only Bubbles this year. It's like half set up. Also, I need to update the Twitch or the YouTube chat. What? Why are you crying? What's wrong? What's wrong, Mr. Kitty, sir? You're blinking at me? There. Play with your thing. Play with your thing. Play with your catnip. Thank you, thank you. Not a her. Not available for mounting, so it's kind of gay. Anyway, good morning. Yeah, Thanksgiving was good. I haven't posted any pictures yet, but I made a pie and green beans, but I didn't take pictures of the green beans because it's just the same green beans. But that's what I made for Thanksgiving because I did not want to do the work. Okay, before we start, I need to quickly fix the break and outro screens. There's a few overlays I haven't finished yet, like the bop cam is one of them I need to finish still. Other ones are the ones I use less, so it's not as important. But yeah, let's fix the break and outro screens. I am not ending stream right now, and I am not on a break. I'm literally updating the screens. So bear with me for 2 seconds. We're gonna update the screens together so that when I actually use them, they are correct. All right? All right. Yeah. Okay, first I'm just gonna load them up in this overlay. Look at him. Hi, sir. Do you have your catnip pillow there, sir? Are you gonna make biscuits? You gonna do bunny cakes? You bunny cakes? You gonna get it? You gonna get him? And oh, scary. He's scary. All right. So hold up. Okay, so I don't know why the other one didn't export. I have to re-export it and then I'll fix that one, but anyway. The outro is fixed now. I just have to update the break screen. Then we're good. Export! Anyway, let's see if I can fix my chat. It's probably gonna not work. Oh my god. Oh my god. Just log me in. You don't have to click 50 buttons. Oh, okay. Cool. Hold on, it exported. Let's fix that really fast. And we're fixed. Okay, now why the hell Can I change the colors? No. I have too many custom fields. I'd have to get new. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Never mind. Ignore that. Is chat not working now? Why is chat not working now? Chat, hello? Chat? Chat, where are you? Girl, I just, oh my god. There we go. Fucking annoying. Oh, really? You can't see the chat on the screen? It's almost like that was literally what I was fucking talking about. That's literally what I was trying to fix. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. Use your fucking brain. That's literally what I was... Anyway, so let me fix this because it's super low for some reason. Oh god. Fucking morning chat is definitely morning chatting. If nothing else. Alright, so we are... Now, do the bops one later. See you soon, Lemon. Alright, so, okay, a few things. Not everyone is here, so I'm gonna have to repeat this later, I'm sure. But... I came up with an idea. A few ideas. I've come up with a few ideas. One of the ideas is for the stream tickets. I'm gonna make an actual, like, literal ticket to send with that so that you've, like, confirmed that you're on the list and you have your ticket. So I'm gonna be doing, like, physical tickets. So if you already got a stream ticket for next month, which we might have to adjust that because of my situation, but either way, I will be sending out actual, not physical tickets, but I will be sending actual tickets. And then on top of that, with the private stream ticket purchases, I'm gonna start doing a loyalty card, like a punch card type of a situation for every 6 streams you get a free stream ticket, because I feel like that would be a good idea. So gonna do both of those things just as like a fun little bonus thing. I thought it'd be a good idea. And I'll just like have to send you a photo of it punched. You'll have to send me the photo of the card, of the last card that you used to punch. Yeah. So it'll be something like that. It'll be like a little movie ticket stub type of situation. I don't know. It'll be cute. Other than that, I have made a loyalty card for Teddy as well. I think hers will be for something else. It might be more of like you spin the wheel and collect stamps for hers. It might be one of those situations. Oh, nice. Happy Thanksgiving. Nice. That's awesome. Let's see. What else? Ah, yes. Teddy advent calendar. I'm making a calendar for her already, and I'm doing some simple drawings to go along with that. So I'm just gonna have like a little advent calendar thing for her that I'm gonna try to post and queue up. Hopefully I can this weekend get a few of the drawings wrapped up so I can have those as like a little advent calendar post thing for her. Wait, no. I'm saying like I'm saying, so basically I'll send you a photo of like the loyalty card without any punches. Once you redeem it by sending me back the photo of the loyalty card as if you're handing it back to me, I will then edit the photo with a little punch stamp on it in a specific way. I will then hand it back to you. Each stream will get a different punch stamp so I can keep track. But yes. Yeah. So I'll just be like sending the photo back and forth. More or less. Hello, welcome. Hello. No. God damn it. Anyway, so that'll be a fun little bonus thing, just to make things a little more interactive. I'm making a Teddy calendar. I'm making a more complex Teddy calendar. I'm making a less complex Teddy calendar. I'm also making a me calendar. It'll be more of like a planner calendar. Just as a little bonus. It's not going to be as lewd or cosplay effort as the last one. It's going to be more of like just like a cute little download on the website. I might make it free even. Like it might even be free or $1. Like it's not going to be lewd, but I just like putting out a calendar every year for you guys. So yeah. Also, as a thing I've started doing for myself, which has been making my break more productive as far as taking care of myself, I decided to make myself a little like daily planner thing where I've like gamified doing my tasks each day to make sure I actually do them and I can keep track of my workouts and everything. So I could also make a version of that that's like less personalized and I can give it to you guys to use if you want. But yeah, those are ideas, those are thoughts, those are things I've been working on. What else? As I'm talking, let me pull up the shit we're gonna work on. So we're gonna work on the dating sim. We might get around to drawing another character, but I'm gonna try to have us finish. Did we finish? We more or less finished that. Okay. We can do the next one. Yeah. What would you guys rather work on? Would you rather work on one of the, like, character sheets or just drawing a character? Because we can do either. I'll show you what the one that we've finished. Well, finished for the most part. Finished for the most part. We have, so here, let me just pull it up and then we can see what we're working with here. It'll be a little easier. Also, we need to figure out what we're gonna listen to. Hey baby. Do you guys like the the snow in the camera? Oh my god, we can poll here. Let's do a poll. Okay, drawing or character sheet designing. Because both of those need to happen. We don't need to, no, that's not. So let me clarify. We're not making up lore right now. That's already been created. We're literally just assembling the character sheet and like making the colors match and shit. We're just gonna be like finishing, like filling out the character sheet. We already have all of the information. Yeah. No, there's no there's no message. Although I'm like, you could probably translate it into one. But yeah. So let me swap over here. Hopefully I updated this one. I did update this one. There we go. We're not watching Mormon Wives right now. Hide the YouTube video. Okay. So this is the finished one. Finished for the most part. We haven't done the locked sections. We're leaving that for later. But so this is a finished one. Quote unquote finished one. This one is almost finished. As you can tell, we have some blank spots we need to fill out. Mostly just like a quote. What is it? The quote we need to do. We need to do the quote. We need to do... Obviously, I'm not doing the photo right now because I need to draw out little reaction cheapies, but that's a project for another time. We need to do the love language. And then, I don't know if we filled out the personality chart or not yet for him. Let's see, is it the same as hers? No. Okay, we did the personality chart. We need to do the love language stuff, the quote, and then wait, what's that box? Hold on. What's that box and what's that box? Oh, those are just photos. Cool. Cool. So we just need to do those two things. And then picture, picture, picture. Nice. And then after we finish this one, we have to work on hers, and hers is clearly, okay. Hers is clearly just a copy right now and has not been filled out at all. So hers is fully blank right now. Hers is fully blank. So hers we gotta finish at all. His we just have to finish a little bit. And hers is done. And if we want to draw some of the characters, I finally finished the line art for most of them, but these two, I already finished the how I wanted to map out the colors. So we'd probably start here. If we wanted to draw a character, we got to do the line art, color, shade. This is just a sketch. So right? Yeah, that's a sketch. A very tiny sketch. But it's a sketch. No! Chat, why do you hate me? So yeah, we're gonna start with one of the boys. One of the boys. That'll be good. But in the meantime, let me figure out what we're gonna watch. Pull up YouTube, see what's up. Let's see if there's anything. Chat. Our favorite Mormon girl posted a new video. Ex-Mormon girl posted a new video. Do we stay on the Mormon train? Do we stay on the Mormon train? Do we do it? She said, okay, the title is Who Put the Book of Mormon in My Hotel Room? The Mega Mormon Marriott Story. I'm sorry, is there a conspiracy with Marriott and the Mormons? Cause, bitch, what do you mean? What do you mean? Alright, let's do that. That'll be good. That'll get us halfway through stream. And then we can listen to a little something afterwards before I gotta skedaddle to set up for Teddy's stream. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Alright, here's the link, chat. Alright.
It's a
Gotta pull it up. Chill, bitch. Alright, cool. Cool.
It's a late night and you've just checked into your hotel, so you make your way to your room, set your stuff down, and start getting ready for bed. And because you're generally a curious person, you also kind of poke around the room a bit and end up opening the bedside table. You're not surprised to see the Gideon Bible because you've seen that in hotel rooms before, but today you notice that there's a second book next to the Bible, and it says on the cover, the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. That's because you're not staying in any old hotel, you are staying in a Marriott. And if you want to fact check me, then the next time you happen to be in a Marriott, check the bedside table just to see that I am telling the truth. If you've seen this before and you have personal experience, please feel free to drop a comment, because I think that most people don't realize that they're being proselyted to in the world's biggest hotel chain. Marriott is a company started by Mormons, and both the Marriott company and the Marriott family have very long history and ties with the Mormon Church. And as you can see from this screenshot from LDS
Excuse
Living,
you, it was started by Mormons? I was expecting it to just be like they had ties or something. No, it was, oh my god.
Connected with Mormons
oh my god, chat.
Started a hotel, because there is the Marriott
the Mormon conspiracy runs so deep, I'm truly convinced that Mormons are running America.
He was born into a large Mormon family as the
they
second
are
of
so
8 children.
deeply ingrained
He also served a Mormon mission in New England.
Every aspect of things. What is happening? What's going on? Why is no one talking about this?
He ended his life as a ultra-rich man.
What
At
the
the time of his
fuck?
death, the Marriott Corporation had $3.5 billion in total annual sales.
I mean,
and
that's
you better
literally
believe
their
that
goal. That's their
10% of
stated
Marriott's
goal.
income went directly to the Mormon Church.
crazy.
As I was researching for this video, I discovered that one of the most famous Mormons, Mitt Romney, who was up against Obama
You
to
know what?
become
Yeah,
president,
he is Mormon.
Mitt Romney was actually named after John Willard Marriott because Mitt is only his middle name. His first name is Willard. I grew up as a very devout Mormon kid, and so the
Willard?
name Marriott is very familiar to me. I have lots of memories about my parents talking
Fucking
about the
Willard.
Marriott family or the hotels.
Mitt Romney's name is
When I went
Willard.
to Brigham Young University, I would walk past the Marriott School of Business. Here's a picture of the building, and as you can see, it's pretty big. It has this
His name is
big
fucking
open-air
Willard?
center, all
Bye.
of the different
I'm
flags
sorry if your
of all
name
the
is
different
Willard, but,
countries.
like, oh my God,
And by
no.
comparison, it's definitely one of the largest and most opulent buildings on BYU campus, and I'm comparing that with where
Like, why
I
not
would
just
go to
William?
classes, which is why I remember
William's
it with
a
some
perfectly good
bitterness
name.
because I would walk past the business building and
Willard.
see, just how beautiful and large and awesome the building looked, and then I would go to my classes, which were in the School of Education, which was kind of like a shoebox in comparison to the business school, and I always felt frustrated by this like kind of quiet assertion of the values of the two schools. Like the business students get this awesome building, and the education students, which are arguably doing something very, very important by educating the future of America, we get the shoebox. The reason that the Marriott name is on the business school is because of a donation that happened in 1988. In that year, the Marriott Foundation gave a $15 million gift to BYU. The business school is not the only building that bears the Marriott name, though. We also have the Marriott Center. This is basically where the BYU basketball games happen. This is also where I would go to the weekly devotional. And so two of the most prominent buildings on the campus have the name Marriott. The University of Utah also has the J. Willard Marriott Library. And so obviously the Marriott family has invested heavily and given a lot of money to these different educational institutions. Now, if you're Mormon, you probably already know that the Marriotts are Mormon. You probably already understand this connection between this family and this religion. I think outsiders sometimes are surprised to find out about this connection. And the reason and the way they find out about it is because they open their hotel side drawer and they discover a Book of Mormon, which for a lot of people is the first time they've ever interacted with anything like this. The situation with the Book of Mormon in your side table is something that started in the 1950s with the very first ever Marriott hotel. Even though the founder of Marriott died in 1985, the family still has very close ties with the church, and the tradition of putting copies of the Book of Mormon into the hotel rooms still continues
My
onward to
mind
this
is
day.
blown. Every
Even
time I
as
watch one of her
Marriott
videos, I'm
buys
like, what the
into new
fuck?
hotel chains, when they acquire a new hotel chain or a new franchise, they typically write into the franchising agreements that they will carry copies of the Book of Mormon into the new hotel chain. For example, in 2016, Marriott acquired a company called Starwood, and after acquiring that, they moved copies of the Bible and the Book of Mormon into about 300,000 different hotel rooms. I also think it's interesting that while the Bibles are covered completely by the Gideon Foundation, the copies of the Book of Mormon are covered by both the Mormon Church and by the Marriott Foundation. So they get the Bibles for free, but the Marriott Foundation itself is proactively purchasing and helping to fund copies of the Book of Mormon in all of these rooms. Today I'm going to
why
react
is there a
to
Bible in every
videos
fucking
people have
hotel
put
room?
Online on TikTok or Instagram.
Like, why is there
of
any
them
Bible?
encountering copies of the Book of Mormon in their hotel room. I'll also share the Mormon side of the history of Marriott. I'll share some snippets of articles
Just some
like
light
this,
reading
which
material
show
about
a different
death.
side of the squeaky clean Mormon family image that Marriott worked very hard to maintain over the years. We'll also discuss how ultra Mormon values sometimes clashed with the hotel chain, specifically around adult videos and with alcohol. I'm also going to call into a few different Marriott hotels and just ask them why they have the Book of Mormon, because I'm curious what the kind of public relations response is.
Yeah, what are they
if
supposed
someone
to
asks,
say?
what is the Book of Mormon doing in my hotel room? If you haven't already, don't forget to brew up your own cup of devil's bean
read
juice.
the Bible
Don't
instead
forget
of
to
getting
like this video, subscribe to
what
my
if you
channel.
hire a
If you
hooker
have a
to
story about
read you the
encountering
Bible?
a Book of Mormon in the wild in a Marriott, please feel free to share it in the comments
Then
below.
what?
I'm very excited to see how
Then
many
what?
people have encountered
Exactly.
this phenomenon.
Checkmate.
I also saw a lot of people saying like it's not true that
Checkmate
Marriott does
Marriott.
this. I think that people who think that are just not curious enough to have opened their bedside table. Because as someone who has known this factoid
I've definitely
for most
seen
of
it
my
there.
life,
I've
if
definitely
I've ever
seen it
happened
there.
to be in a Marriott, I always check the side table, and I found one in the side table every single time, without fail. So drop a comment if you have an experience surrounding this topic. I also have a separate Patreon video posted where I wrote in the front cover of a Book of Mormon that was in a Marriott. This is a common practice of ex-Mormons to write in the cover of the Book of Mormon that you might find in your hotel side table.
Oh, is
I'll
it
talk
really?
about that in a bit, but I also made a separate Patreon video where I participated in this ex-Mormon trend. It's already posted if you want to see
actually.
that. I'm going to share in a bit some of the
kinda like
videos
that.
of other people responding
like,
or reacting to finding a Book of Mormon in their side
When
table.
the people
Personally,
who go
how I feel
caving,
about
and then
this
there's like
is-
always a book at
I
the
know
very end
it's
of the
not,
cave
like,
where you can like
that
write
big of a
down that you
deal.
were there.
I think my biggest
Like
beef
little
with
guest
this
book.
is that you're putting a religious text
cute.
in a private space. So a hotel room is a place where you're going to sleep. You want some privacy
How
from
are
the
you?
world,
Hope you had a
and
good
something about
Thanksgiving.
having it in the side table does feel intrusive to me. Really, any religious text, it feels like this should be a place where these types of forces, like having someone proselyte to you, that shouldn't happen. I think in a place where you're also going to sleep. I think a lot of people feel like this. This is why a lot of hotels are removing religious
If you're like
texts from
climbing
hotel
mountains
rooms,
or
because
other
I think
stuff too,
a lot of
like
people
they'll have
feel
like a
hey,
book at
if
the
I
top where
want
you
a
can like
Bible,
write
I'll
down.
bring my Bible.
Some people
or
will,
I
like,
can go
leave
buy
stuff
one.
there.
A lot of hotels now, instead of putting a Bible in the hotel room, they might write in the welcome notes or something. If you'd like any
Begins.
religious texts, we can provide any religious text from the front desk. But something
Anytime
about
I hear the
having
name
it
Gideon,
in
I
the
think
room where you expect privacy and discretion
I think of,
does feel like an
Gravity
overreach
Falls.
to me. Obviously, they're allowed to do it. Obviously, Marriott or any other hotel chain can put anything they want in the room. It's not against the law, but it does feel invasive to me.
It does
I think
feel
past
invasive.
the invasiveness of having a religion subtly present in your hotel room, I also think purely that the Book of Mormon is a objectionable text. In the book, it says that if people are not righteous, that their skin turns
Exactly.
black. That's a storyline in the Book
I
of
love
Mormon.
Gideon,
That as
but
people
also I hate him.
chose
He's
to
the
reject
absolute
Jesus
worst.
Christ and his gospel, that God placed a curse on them, which was a skin of blackness. Which I'll put that verse off to the side here. It's also a
I know,
violent
that's
book.
why it's
Within the
extra
first few
fucked.
pages,
It's 'cause
we
usually
see
people who are staying at a
God
hotel, it's like
commanding
they're
Nephi to
there
cut
for-
off someone's head.
Their guard is
because,
slightly
if he
down
doesn't
because
cut
they're
off his
there for
head,
some
then an entire
reason. They're either on
nation will dwindle
vacation
in
or they're
unbelief.
desperate,
And so
that seems
even in
like
the
you're
first few
preying on
pages, it's
someone in a
like God is literally telling
position where they would be
his
maybe more open
servant
to it.
Nephi to kill someone and to take his clothing and take
True.
his sword and be deceptive and commit murder. And it's just like it ratchets up really quick as far as the violence goes, and even just the subtle messaging of the idea that God is commanding someone to kill someone. It's also a sexist book. There are 330 men named in this book and only six women. They gave us 6 women. Thanks, Joseph Smith, for the 6 women. And I'll say the Bible has a lot of the same criticisms. There's also a lot of objectionable content in the Bible. I think even if they were to put the Book of Mormon and Bible in a less prominent place, maybe in the closet or somewhere, but having it in the side table right next to where you sleep, so
I don't
it's,
think there's
it's
a
just
spot that's
right
not
there. Even the
in your face,
placement
though.
is too close for comfort for me. In this article from 2018 titled "Oh Holy Nights," they really got creative with that one, but they asked for a statement as to why the Book of Mormon is present in Marriott hotel rooms, and the statement was,
What is my
"There
line
are
of
many
business?
guests who are not digitally connected who appreciate having one or both of these books available. It is a tradition appreciated by many, objected to by few." To me, that statement is like a little eye-rolly for me. It's like they don't even speak to, okay, well, but why not the Quran? Why not any other religious text? It's like they don't even speak to why those 2
That
books
works.
over other books. Why not just like give us a selection of books? The 2 books they give us are very specific. It's not just like they're providing general reading material for the digitally unengaged. They chose to provide those books for a reason, but they are not giving the reason. It's very mealy-mouthed, and it feels a little sneaky to me. To me, if you're gonna put a Book of Mormon in my hotel
Agreed.
room, say it with your chest, you know. Explain it more clearly like why it is you're choosing to do this. This statement to me is so vague that it feels like they don't actually want to say why it is, which is because Marriott was founded by a Mormon. He had very strong belief in the Mormon church. He wanted to share his beliefs with anyone staying in his hotel. They don't speak to any of that history with this statement. They're just like, well, most people enjoy it and only a few object to it. Now, with a lot of these types of situations, one of the most common questions I get is, does it actually work?
Delusional.
That's probably the most common question I got on my video about serving a Mormon mission. Is like,
I need to see what I did
worth
for
it?
this.
Like, how many converts are they actually getting from this? And at least for the Book of Mormon in the side table situation, I did find this Reddit thread, which is at least anecdotal evidence that it did work for some people. The title is Conversion from Hotel Book of Mormon. It says, at the dinner table tonight, one of my kids was asking about the Books of Mormon that are found in nearly all Marriott chain hotel rooms.
Not go crazy.
I actually haven't visited them all, so I can't verify. The question came up basically if anyone knew anyone that was baptized as a result of this and if it actually worked. So there are 27 comments on this, and maybe 5 or 6 people who are chiming in to say that it worked for them. For example, this person says, I visited a visitor center with my girlfriend in 1990. On the way home, my motorcycle broke down. I got a room that had a Book of Mormon in the nightstand. I did some reading. I was baptized later that year. So at least for that person, it did work, and I'll link that Reddit thread below if you want to go read through a few other examples. I also found this video. In this video, this person says that they joined the church as a result of finding a copy of the Book of Mormon in their bedside table at a Marriott. He now seems to be an influencer for the church. He has 52,000 followers. It says, inspiring Latter-day Saint, hashtag BYU, gay convert following Christ. And so, obviously, with this Book of Mormon in the Marriott situation, they did at least get, a few people who converted, and this person who became a Mormon influencer as a result. Now, because we don't have any real statistics on this, it's obviously impossible to test this claim that they made in the statement, which is that it's appreciated by many, objected to by few. Clearly, we have the Reddit thread and people saying, hey, it worked for me, I'm happy that this happened. I found other videos that we'll watch of people saying, I object to this. One example that I got served it a while ago and I couldn't find it, but the guy basically had opened his side table and the Book of Mormon was on top of the Bible, and he was like, guess what I found on top of the Bible? And it was a little melodramatic.
That's really funny.
It's okay. I don't think the Book of Mormon is going to squash the Bible.
I don't know,
but the idea that it was placed on top seemed to be an even greater offense than the fact that it was there to begin with. Here's a video on TikTok of what this person did when they found the Book of Mormon.
I'm staying at a Marriott hotel, wanted to check the end table, and lo and behold, Book of Mormon. But the problem is, whoever cleaned this room last put it in the wrong spot. There's a special place in every Marriott hotel that this is supposed to go. It's right over here.
Is it the trash
right,
can?
right here. Down with false doctrine.
So, I guess he's one of the few that objected in this case. We also have this one, 25,000 likes. It says, POV, you're staying at a hotel in Utah, and she pulls a copy of the Book of Mormon out of her side table. She also uses the hashtag Real Housewives of Salt Lake, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I think she thinks that the Book of Mormon is in the side table purely because she's in Utah. This is something that exists throughout the United States. It's definitely because she's in Utah, but also hotels. It's not a Utah thing. Though I did see another comment of somebody saying that they carried copies of the Book of Mormon around with them, and they would put them in side tables whenever they would stay at hotels that weren't Marriott. So there's a chance that maybe people are doing that in Utah more than we even realize. In this next video, I learned a fact that I actually didn't know before, but I also encountered a lot in my research. So let's watch this next video.
So I'm from Utah. I grew up super Mormon, and every time I stay in a Marriott, I always go and look in the drawer. In case you didn't know, Marriott, the company, is owned by Mormons, and so in every single drawer in every room next to the Bible is a Book of Mormon. One of the first things I do when I come into the room is I go and open the Book of Mormon. And it's not because I'm a Mormon, because I'm super gay. It's because a lot of the times you will find something inside of them. And tonight, I found it. Well, let me show you.
Hell yeah.
So he finds cash, and apparently there's a trend where people will put cash in.
You
I
know
think there's
what?
two ways to interpret this. One is potentially
Now,
that
I
if
will
you're
also
going through a
be
hard
doing
time,
that.
you
I will also be
open
doing
the Book
that
of
now.
Mormon, you're turning to like, oh, maybe this religious text will help me. I feel like finding a 20 is going to feel like a sign from God that you're meant to be reading the book. So if I'm analyzing
whatever
this
gets
from
me the
more of,
20,
like, a critical
I
point of
guess.
view, I'm like, is this
If you need me to say
into
God gave
making
it to me,
people
then
think,
for
like,
sure.
Oh, God
Thanks
is trying
God
to tell me
for
a
the
sign that I
20.
should become Mormon because I found money in the Book of Mormon. The more hospitable interpretation of this is that people are like, oh, if they're opening a copy of the Book of Mormon, they might need the help. Maybe they're going through a hard time, so I want to help them have like a little pick-me-up or something. Either way, whatever the intentions are, apparently this also happens with the Bible. I found multiple comments of people saying that they always look through Bibles left behind in public spaces or like in hotel rooms because they typically find money that Christians or Mormons or whatever they leave in these books. Now, asking yourself why there's a Book of Mormon in your side table is just one of many questions that may run through your mind on any given day.
I will now be
like you
opening
may
every
find
Bible I
yourself
see.
wondering whatever happened to that doctor's appointment you were supposed to be making, or maybe it's that overdue dental cleaning or the annual checkup that's been years in the making. You may also wonder about the appointment you should make with your dermatologist about that weird thing on your skin that you keep wondering about. Let's get that appointment booked today, and you can do it entirely online while I'm talking to you with today's sponsor, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and find doctors that are in network and high quality, and you can even book your appointment in the app. ZocDoc lets you filter providers by specialty, distance, accepted insurance, patient ratings, and more. Once you find the right doctor, you can see what appointments they have available. You can also get appointments fast, often within 24 to 72 hours. Sometimes you can even find same-day appointments with the doctor of your choice. If you're like me, you simply do not have time to call a million different doctor's offices looking for an appointment, and that's why ZocDoc is so amazing, because it allows you to care for your health on your schedule. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Grenfell to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Grenfell, ZocDoc.com/Grenfell. And my final submission into I found a Book of Mormon at Marriott, I have this video.
You left the church. Why can't you leave the church alone? Well, I'm on a trip in Mexico, and who's not leaving who alone now, huh?
Yeah, I feel like this kind of speaks to my point about having a religion insert itself into your experience in a private setting where you're expecting to relax and enjoy yourself and not feel like you're maybe subtly being preached to. I do feel like members often say, why do you make these videos? Can't you just leave us alone, leave us in peace? You can leave the church, but you can't leave the church alone, that kind of a thing. But it does feel like whether it's stunts like having a Book of Mormon in your hotel drawer, or sending, for example, 84,000 missionaries across the globe to come knock on your door and DM you and get up in your space to say, hey, you're not living the right way. You need to repent, you need to not drink coffee, you need to get married in the temple, you need to long list of rules. It doesn't exactly feel like they are practicing what they preach when they say, just let people believe what they want. You're literally not letting people believe what they want when you are knocking on their door, approaching them in private places, and trying to preach the gospel. That's kind of the opposite. Proselyting is the opposite of leaving people alone. Now, along with this, like I said, the money thing was new to me. I'm gonna use that trick in the future, though, and see if I find anything. But along with this idea of the Book of Mormon in the side table, another common thing that members will do is do something called write your testimony in the Book of Mormon. And I'll put some screenshots off to the side here of examples of this. This is something I did countless times as a member of the church. I remember even once when we made aid packages, this was, I believe, packages meant for refugees, we included a copy of the Book of Mormon in every single aid package, and one of my youth activities was to write my testimony in every single Book of Mormon. You know, my hands cramping by the end because I'm writing my testimony over and over again for all of these different kits, so that every single kit gets not just a Book of Mormon, but a Book of Mormon with a testimony written inside about how it's a life-changing book. The Book of Mormon generally is just a huge aspect of the Mormon religion. It's often referred to as the keystone of the religion. Basically, if you remove the keystone, everything crumbles around it. And even as a missionary, we would usually lead with the Book of Mormon. Can we read you a scripture about Jesus? So much of the church's literature, so much of the beliefs of the church is propped up by the Book of Mormon. Another famous quote from a Mormon leader is him saying that if someone wants to leave the church, they'll have to go under,
Sorry for jumping back and forth
or
a million
around
times.
the
I
Book of
just
Mormon
cannot
because
remember what
the
method I
evidence
used
of its
for drawing
truthfulness
this.
is so complete
And I'm trying to keep it consistent.
so in depth that to leave the
Okay, so
church, you
body and
basically have
clothes
to
are all
turn
one layer,
your
hair is
back
its
on
own
the
layer.
most correct
Bet.
book on earth. I do have an entire video about the Book of Mormon and about all of the reasons why it's simply, you know, no archaeologist, no historian, no scholar has ever agreed that the Book of Mormon is a non-fiction book, that the peoples described in the Book of Mormon are real people, that is, you know, confirmed by science or archaeology or anything like that. There's anachronisms in the book. There's a lot of different ways you can dissect it to prove that it's simply a text that was created by Joseph Smith. All of that to say that even though those things are the case, even though
I mean, my sketch. I love when my sketch is this
with the
clean.
Mormon analysis
Then it makes
that
my
it's a
line art so
nonfiction
much
book
easier. I
about
don't
real
have to
ancient
do any
peoples.
thinking.
It's still a very important book to the religion.
Thank you
I
past
honestly
me
feel
for
like
not
as I was
doing
raised in the
chicken
Mormon church, the
scratch
Bible
sketches
is kind of an
this time.
afterthought. It's a side text. It's like the Robin, while the Book of Mormon is the Batman. It is important to the religion, I think, specifically because it teaches about what Jesus did while he was on the earth, but there's not a lot of focus on it. So on my husband's mission in Sweden, he was actually reprimanded at one point from teaching from the Bible too much, because they said you're supposed to teach mostly from the Book of Mormon. The Bible is a supporting document, but we don't know if it was translated correctly. The belief is that the Bible was corrupted over time because of too many translations, and so this means that the Bible is faulty, and the Book of Mormon, like I said, is literally known as the most correct book on earth. And so I think this is the core part of why the Book of Mormon shows up in every Marriott, is that it's such a major and important part of the religion. When I was growing up and we would discuss this idea of the Book of Mormon being in Marriott's hotel rooms, the idea around this was basically that someone would be alone in a hotel room, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're stressed, whatever. They open their side table and inside they see the Book of Mormon. And based on this lore, or this kind of manufactured idea of what would happen, this sad person might decide on a whim to open the Book of Mormon, and they would immediately be overcome with this like complete revelation that this is a book of God, it's a book of Jesus, and that this feeling that they would get just from even opening the book, like when I was growing up, it was like even seeing the book could inspire someone to join the church, because it was that powerful and that alluring. And so when they would get this overwhelming feeling upon seeing it or reading through it, they would immediately have to learn more. They would try to contact the missionaries, they would try to go to a church, and they would get baptized. I believed in this idea so strongly that I would always carry a copy of the Book of Mormon in my backpack. Before putting it in my backpack, I would write my testimony in the front. I've been putting a few images to the side here of what that looks like. So to write your testimony in the Book of Mormon, it would be something like, "Dear reader, this book has changed my life. This book has been a transformative way for me to draw closer to Jesus. I testify of its truthfulness. I know that if you read it, you'll also have the same feelings I have felt about this book. I invite you to pray about this book. Here's a specific story about the way it's changed my life." You'd write your whole testimony, and then at the end, "In the name of Jesus Christ, amen." And so, based off of that trend of Mormons writing their testimonies in the front of a Book of Mormon, Ex-Mormons have their own trend, which is to write their ex-Mormon testimony inside of the cover of a Book of Mormon. And you can also find a lot of images like this online. Here's an example. You can see at the top that someone wrote their testimony, I believe the church is true, this book will change your life, etc. And then at the bottom, someone went in to say, actually, here's another hot take. Here's the other side of this story. And I think that this ex-Mormon testimony trend is very interesting. And as I said earlier, I have a separate Patreon video. And so in honor of my Mormon Marriott YouTube video, I figured I'd go into a Marriott and write my own ex-Mormon testimony in the cover of a Book of Mormon. So to read a bit of their ex-Mormon testimony, in this case, they said, "To whoever is reading this, I have also read this book, and I had
I feel like
a
that would be
different
very
experience.
therapeutic,
While
actually.
I'm happy for Paul, Pat, IDK, I want to point out that this specific religion has caused so many people pain, myself included." He goes on to say, "I was baptized at 8 years old, raised in the church, and pariahed because I am gay. These people hurt me beyond comprehension and ultimately led me to consider suicide. I was lucky enough to tell the tale, but I wouldn't have survived if I didn't leave. I want you to know that the truth is subjective and we shouldn't rely on others to define it for us." And so I'll link to the rest. He just has a few more sentences after that. But I think this counter narrative that ex-Mormons provide is very important. Obviously, that's a major reason for my channel, because I think often the PR version of the church, the version of the church the missionaries share, isn't really what is beneath the surface. In many ways, I think when people first come across Mormons, they see the happy, smiling families, they see the wealth and the business
to me
success.
personally, I see it and it
They
reminds
see
me of the Stepford
missionaries
Wives, but yeah.
and their clean-cut look with the Book of Mormon and the name tags. But this traditional and faithful image often is not in line with the lived experience of what I share, what this person is sharing, the pain that they experience as a result of being a part of this church, the harm caused by a lot of the messages, whether it's teachings about what it means to be a woman or being gay, or all of the other examples I've shared on my channel of instances in which the church has caused harm. I also found this video, this is in Spanish, but he basically opens the side table and in it he begins to write his ex-Mormon testimony, and he writes it in English and in Spanish. As you can see here, as he's writing, he says, if you want more information about the church, go to cesletter.org. And this is actually was a major website/document that helped me untangle and understand my religion. It's common to see ex-Mormons write CES letter in faithful places. I saw one where they wrote CES letter inside of a locker at a temple. That's a common thing to write inside of the cover of a Book of Mormon. And if you're interested in my content, if you've enjoyed learning more about what I consider to be the real history of the Mormon Church and a lot of the reasons people criticize the church, the CES letter is a great place to start. It's available online. You don't have to purchase anything. You just click through. It's a PDF, so it's pretty succinct. It's not like you have to read an entire textbook in order to read through all of the criticisms of the truth claims. Anyways, just to say that if someone is saying, if you want more information about the church, go to cesletter.org. They're probably an ex-Mormon who wants you to know the real history of the church and the real criticisms against the church, whether it's Joseph Smith's polygamy or errors in the translation of the Book of Mormon. It's all very easy to digest and understand through the CES letter. I think an interesting element of the Mormon Marriott story is that their connection with the church goes past the Book of Mormon. I think that's probably just one of the most well-known instances of how Marriott is tied up with the Mormon Church. But there are other instances of times when the Mormon belief system and the Marriott Corporation had some sort of a conversation about how things should be done. A couple of major examples of this is the decision to provide alcohol within the hotel. We'll read this article in a bit, which is basically about how Marriott literally went to the actual prophet of the church and asked for his advice on if they should allow or provide alcohol. Another instance is the decision to provide adult entertainment within the rooms. There's an article about that and how the decision to provide it ultimately led to some backlash against Mitt Romney in one of his presidential runs.
Against
I think all
Mitt
of this
Romney?
is tied up
Wait, why?
in how Mormons do preach
That's so
a form
funny.
of prosperity doctrine. This is basically the idea that God blesses those he loves more, and if you are less righteous, you have less blessings, like monetary or physical blessings. And why often people ask me in comments, like, why do Mormons seem so rich? I think it's because some of the most famous and most elevated Mormons are rich, even within the church. I feel like almost every bishop or leader I ever
Actually, 'cause
had
they're
was
rich.
wealthy. And so I think the response to the reason why Marriott went forward with providing some of these more sinful elements of the hotel experience lies in the idea that
Not a girl,
like
so
money is the most important
start
thing.
there.
It's okay to do something as long as you're getting money for it. This is like a permissible opportunity to be adjacent to sin. As I already said at the beginning, Marriott is the largest hotel chain. I wanted to figure out just how many copies of the Book of Mormon that means are out there in hotel rooms. According to this report, Marriott has 1.7 million hotel rooms, so that's definitely a large number and a lot of copies. Usually when Marriott acquires a new hotel chain, they write specifically into the contract that part of the contractual franchise agreement is that there will be Bibles and copies of the Book of Mormon in the hotel rooms. This report also estimates there's 577,000 rooms that will come online soon, so that will be over 2 million rooms by the time all of this estimated growth happens. What I did find in reading through some of these articles is that there are certain hotel chains that they have not required copies of the Book of Mormon to be in. I'll also say a common debate is like how to say the plural of copies of the Book of Mormon. And there's like a whole scene from a Mormon comedy about this. Is it Books of Mormon, Books of Mormon, Book of Mormons? And technically the correct verbiage is copies of the Book of Mormon. And just like the name of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's like such a mouthful that it's just too much. So a few hotels that do not have the copies of the Book of Mormon, we have AC Hotel, Protea, Moxie, and Edition, do not have Bibles and copies of the Book of Mormon.
What the fuck are any of
I
those?
tried to do the math on this. Moxie has 30,000 rooms, Edition has 4,000 rooms about. You can see in this report I've already been referencing, you can see how many rooms are available under each franchise. Just to get a rough estimate based off of who doesn't have the copies and who does, based on my math, this is, this is my
you would
napkin
think maybe
math.
that might be
I
part
didn't
of it,
actually
Lemon.
talk to a representative
a
for
guess.
this. But even with those hotel chains not providing copies of the Book of Mormon, we still have about 95% of Marriott hotel rooms providing a Book of Mormon. So it's still like most of them. In this article, there is a statement about why some of the rooms don't have the copies. And it says, it's because the religious books don't fit the personality of the brands, said Marriott spokeswoman,
It doesn't
explaining that the Moxie and
really-
Edition
okay.
hotels are geared toward fun-loving millennials. And so I think the implication there is so funny, which is that like religion isn't fun and like a downer. So they don't put the religious texts in the hotels that are meant to be geared towards people who want to have fun. It also says among the reasons for the change, they have a need to appeal to younger American travelers who are less devout than their parents or grandparents, and to avoid offending international travels such as Muslims or Buddhists. And so based on my research, all hotels
But you don't care about offending the
generally
Christians
are
at all.
moving away from providing religious texts.
They're like,
Basically
nah, fuck
because
them.
America is becoming less religious overall. However, even though Marriott isn't putting them in every single room, they are still putting them in more rooms than most hotel chains. We've now reached the point where I'm going to call a few different Marriott hotels, and I'm just gonna ask them simply, why do you have the Book of Mormon in your hotel? Also, before I make the calls, a quick disclaimer that I'm going to change the voices of the people who respond. This is purely because I just don't want to get anyone in trouble based off of like if they had a good response or not. This is obviously calling people in their place of work. This is really what they said with a voice changer, purely because I just don't want to, I don't want to
that's
get
fair.
anyone in trouble if they didn't have the right response or something. So if the voices sound a bit different, now you know. I'll also put captions down below in case it's a little difficult to understand what they're saying, but let's jump into the phone calls. I also figured I'd try calling Marriotts in different locations. So I like, my theory is that maybe the Marriott in Utah will be more excited to talk about this than the Marriott in New York. So we're gonna start with the Marriott in New York and work our way through New York, Utah, and then we'll try one in Texas, which is where I live.
Hello, you have reached the New York Marriott. To ensure each guest call is routed to the appropriate representative, please listen
This is so
closely
funny.
to the following 5 options. To speak with a hotel representative, please press 5.
True, there's a lot of good Christian rock bands. I will
Hi,
give credit where
I
it's
was calling-
due.
I just have a quick question. I know you guys have copies of the Book of Mormon in your hotels,
The
and I
Christians
was
can definitely
wondering
do
why
music
that
well.
is. Okay.
That's so
he hung
funny.
up on me.
Stop.
All right. So, no response. So
Amazing.
first metric, just hang up. I don't, there's not a lot I can go based off of that. They hung up on me. So obviously New York, I guess, does not want to talk about it. Now we're gonna try a Marriott in Utah.
That's so fucking funny.
Good afternoon, and thank you for calling Marriott. This is Eva at your service. How may I help?
Talk to a representative.
Good afternoon. Thank you for contacting the front desk at the Marriott. This is Jonathan at your service.
Hi, I was calling because I recently found out that Marriott has a copy of the Book of Mormon in their different rooms, and I was wondering why that is.
So you're just curious why they're in the rooms, or?
Yeah, just curious, like the reason why.
I think it was just something that was offered when Marriott first got out. I don't really know the other reason beyond that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Honestly, that's a valid.
So he didn't hang up on me.
That's
To
a
me,
valid
I
reply.
took that response as like a very honest, like, oh, I think this was just part of the founding. Can't really speak to anything past that. So that's our second Utah
like that's
data
fair.
point. Not like a strong explanation, but
They
just,
probably don't prep their
yep,
employees
it's
for this
just something we
question
do,
at all.
But I don't know. It's interesting because this has to be something that costs the Marriott Foundation thousands of dollars, especially if it's 95% of the hotel rooms and there's like 1.7 million rooms. But so far, there doesn't seem to be like a united message around like, hey, here's what to say.
They probably
about
assumed
this.
no one would
So that
question
person-
it.
I'm grateful to that person for at least responding. So we're gonna end by trying out a Marriott in Texas. I'm gonna guess that we're gonna either get probably the same thing where it's like, I don't really know, I can't really speak to this.
Thank you for calling Marriott. Please hold for assistance.
It makes sense the New Yorker would just hang up, though. They're like, I don't have time for this.
Thank you for calling Marriott. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm just calling with a random question. I recently found out that Marriott has a copy of the Book of Mormon in the different hotels rooms, and I was wondering if you could explain why they put that in there.
I cannot. No, I think, no, I don't want to give false information.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe because they want to, like, represent, different religions, maybe.
That's so funny.
And then also that,
Yeah.
but, and I don't want to give false information, though.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I was just curious if I called, if somebody could explain, but yeah, no pressure to answer if yeah.
I'm so sorry. But
Honestly, half the employees are probably like,
so, if I get that question again,
are there?
I
I didn't know this.
Well, I really appreciate it, and thank you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye. So that person gave me the best, or at least most complete answer. I also appreciate her being like, I don't want to say it wrong, but I also want to, answer your question. I feel like the New York hanging up, as someone who lived in New York for 2 years, that was the most New York response that you could imagine.
Yeah.
Of someone just being like, I'm not dealing with this today. The Texas hotel, really both of them tried to give me an answer. I think what this leaves me wondering is like if I had tried to make these phone calls in the 70s or 80s, if there would have been a more cohesive brand response when
Probably.
JW Marriott was still alive and was still very much leading the company. And I think Mormonism was a little bit more baked into the company. I think now it's so corporate. I think it's just so interesting that they have this
Yeah, I
very
think
specific
so.
plan, and they're putting a Book of Mormon in the rooms. If they acquire a new hotel chain, they're saying, hey, the Book of Mormon and the Bible are going to be in your rooms, but they're not maybe educating any of the service workers as to why. The responses seemed
That's
mostly
exactly
to
what's
be
happening.
like, oh, like,
Oh, shit, I
I'll
forgot my
answer
ear.
based off of my own logic and my general knowledge of the company, but I'm not going to read a statement. I'm not going to give a response. Had I asked something like, can I smoke in the hotel rooms? I'm sure that they would have a very clear response of, this
Yeah.
is what you say when someone asks this question. And I like that the woman at the end was like, I'm gonna do some research because I appreciate that, she was very helpful. So anyways, I do think it's interesting though that even though they have this massive effort to put a Book of Mormon in every
Yeah, it's
room,
really interesting
I
they
even
wouldn't
saw
even really
a TikTok
educate
video of a
them at
girl
all on
who was she worked as a cleaner for Marriott, and she explained that that was part of their job. She said that every time she would clean a room, she would go check the books. She would make sure they weren't defaced. She said sometimes people had written in them or ripped pages out or whatever, so she would have to replace them, or she would basically check to make sure the book was where it was supposed to be and in the condition it was meant to be in. And that this was basically part of her checklist of items that, as part of going into the rooms and getting everything ready for the next guest, she would check in on the Book of Mormon
That is
and the Bible.
fascinating.
And so it's just interesting to me that they still put so much manpower behind getting the copies in the room, making sure that the copies are where they're supposed to be, but there's not any other aspect of the hotel that really seems to rally around that idea. It's like this little
It's like
orphan,
a little hush-hush.
this little vestige of like, we used to be a Mormon company, but nothing else around it, whether it's the training of the employees,
Yeah, I think it's just
or
'cause it's
messaging
too
on the
corporate.
website, is still
And anything that
head-nodding
corporate
toward the
can't
church,
really
in the way
be
that
religious.
putting a Book of Mormon in a side table is like a major head nod to the church. Now that we've made our phone calls and looked at a little bit of TikTok and Instagram, I figured I'd share a little bit more of the history behind the Marriotts and how it's connected to the Mormon church. I did think it was interesting that JW Marriott was born in Marriott, Utah. Obviously, that means that this family has been big in the church for a long time, well before any hotels were made. This reminds me of Porterville. My first ancestors to join the church had the last name Porter. He came over with the Saints and founded Porterville, and he was also a polygamist. And so it's just very
her family's
interesting
been in it for a
how some
minute.
of these
Holy
old
shit.
Mormon names are so well established in the church that portions of Utah, like small towns or whatever, were literally named after these founding Mormon families. As I said, J.W. Marriott was in a big Mormon family. He served a mission. His first business was a root beer company, which I thought was kind of funny, and then he later turned it into something called the Hot Shop, where he also served like food and things like that. A story I came across in this article
Of course
was
it's
that
soda, though.
he was late to his own wedding because he was trying to start a business or get business funding, and that his wife was just like,
my God, did Mormons
okay,
invite
I'll
root
still
beer?
have you. And I feel like that also seems like a very
Did
Mormon
Mormons invent
story
root
to
beer
me, where
chat?
like weddings are not very important, and it's like you just go to the church building after and have a little punch, and nowhere near the level of party or celebration that a
God, I
typical
hope
wedding
so.
has, like a non-Mormon wedding that I've been to. I feel like Mormon weddings are kind of like the same as when kids are born in the church. It's like nobody, it's like yeah, good for you. All right, back to what we were doing. You know, even just like posing it as like, oh, he was such a good businessman. He cared more about that than like showing up to his wedding on time. I don't know. That just, I feel like if you go read it, which I'll put the snippet
weird
off to the side here, I feel like it's said in almost like this very braggadocious, complimentary way, and I'm just like, the idea that we are celebrating a man for being late to his own wedding.
Yeah, right? Like, that's
Okay.
fucking weird.
The first ever hotel opened by Marriott was in 1957. This was the Twin Bridges Motor Hotel in Arlington, Virginia. From what I can tell, that was that the first ever hotel also had a copy of the Book of Mormon in every room. So this is a tradition that goes all the way back to their first hotel, which was founded in the 50s. I also mentioned earlier that there are other ways in which Mormon doctrine potentially was a difficulty when trying to start a hotel chain. There's two main examples I was going to highlight. So the first is providing alcohol within the hotel. According to this article, it says the first 3 hotels had been built in Virginia and Texas, which were dry states. Pennsylvania, on the other hand, was a wet state that allowed the sale of alcohol in hotels except on Sundays. So this provides a bit of a question, to do or not to do. JW agonized over this decision.
Separation of
his
church and
discussions
state,
with Bill,
though, am I
that's his
right?
son, who had no similar misgivings. Bill was just like, let's make the money. Bill advised JW to consult with church leadership, so he got to talk to President David O. McKay, which I thought was also crazy and shows, like, if you're rich and I think well known within the church, you get access to leadership and to this like special opportunity that the general membership would not have been allowed to have.
Boys, you don't
So
need
he
to bark,
literally-
boys.
JW Marriott literally goes to the prophet to say, should I sell alcohol in my establishments? According to this article, the prophet said, as I see it, Brother Marriott, if you don't satisfy your customers' wants and needs, you could be running the same risk. If liquor today is an essential part of the service that the hotel and restaurant industry offers to its patrons, it seems to me that you're obligated to sell it to them.
What the fuck?
I don't know if you are actually. You could have given other advice, but he chose not to. To sell it to them doesn't mean that we approve of drinking any more than to sell a gun means the approval of the using that gun to commit a crime.
Well,
I don't know if David O. McKay was just like,
not-
if you sell alcohol, we get 10% of the income that you get from having a great business. I do think that this also feeds back into this prosperity doctrine thing, and is a common question even why Ballerina Farm doesn't wear her garments, or like anytime anyone is like, well, why is this rule not that big of a deal in Mormonism when it comes to making money? And I've shared this before. There's like Mormons will say, well, the ox is in the mire, so I can work on Sunday because Jesus said that sometimes you just have to do things. And usually the reason for the workaround is often because of money, which is interesting because when a few weeks ago I did a reaction video with ex-JW Panda Tower, and it seems that in Jehovah's Witnesses' minds, in their doctrine, it's a lot more like there's no exceptions. There's no exceptions to any of these rules. Them's the breaks. Like he shared, I guess, there was a magazine through the Watchtower that is literally celebrating when children decide not to get blood transfusions and so as a result pass away. So these children are being celebrated by this religion as warriors for God, for choosing to die rather than get a blood transfusion. It's crazy to me because it seems like, at least hearing from a Jehovah's Witness, they're a lot less into the loopholes, whereas Mormons, there's a lot more opportunities to be like, well, we can sell alcohol because you're not going to be successful otherwise, and selling alcohol isn't the same as endorsing it, even though, like, I think
it kind of is.
I think most common sense would say, like, I think selling it is a little bit of an endorsement, right? Like,
I think so.
I mean, if you're fully abstaining from alcohol, having it in the hotel, selling it, like, to me, reading into David O. McKay, it seems more like he's like, well, making money is more important than not providing alcohol. Like, having a strong business is more important than choosing not to provide alcohol. And keep in mind, David McKay very well could have been like, dude, you already have like 3 hotels. I don't think you need more money. But rather than saying that, he was like, well, you gotta do what you gotta do. Sell the booze, man. And arguably, it was a good business decision to sell alcohol. I don't know if Marriott would be what it is today if they had chosen to abstain, but it just shows that there are instances in which
just goes to show
in
the
a
Mormon
world of
church's
competing priorities, money is more
doctrine
important
holds you
than
back if you actually
having
follow
this, like,
it.
perfect, squeaky clean image. This brings us to item number 2, which is adult content. So I actually have a really visceral, strong memory of my parent at one point basically complaining that Marriott was providing adult content for rent within like a pay-per-view setting within the hotels, and how like this was evidence of moral degradation and how could they do this. And it seems like by David O. McKay basically being like, give the people what they want, it set Marriott up for more business success at least, even though there's also more scrutiny from the devout membership like my family, or in the case of Mitt Romney, when he was running for president the first time, a huge criticism against him because Mitt Romney ran on a anti-porn / anti-adult content platform.
Did he stay at the
partially,
Marriott?
and a lot of people criticized him for his stance because he was on the board of Marriott, and Marriott provided adult content in their hotel rooms. In this article, it said Romney caught a bit of flack last week because he spent nearly 10 years on the Marriott board, yet never tried to reverse the company's policy of providing pornography on demand, something J.W. Bill Marriott Jr. defended in 2000. We also have this quote: 2 weeks ago, probable Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney abruptly resigned from Marriott's board. In 2008, family values groups chastised Romney for failing to convince Marriott to de-porn its movie titles. And so I think it's interesting that we have this story about alcohol where David O. McKay, the prophet of the church, is saying, you gotta do what you gotta do, and then they take that into another sin, which is adult content in the rooms, but that's not met with the same level of acceptance that the alcohol was. In another instance of a clash between the church and Marriott's company values, in 2008 there was Prop 8. This was in California, basically trying to change the laws around gay marriage. And the Mormon Church worked really hard, donated a lot of money, and also asked the members to donate a lot of money to fighting the passage of gay marriage in California specifically. And at this time, we have the same Bill Marriott. He publicly said neither he nor Marriott International contributed to the Prop 8 donations, and the company stayed neutral. And Marriott has also had campaigns around gay travel and promoting like love is love and marketing to LGBTQ travelers. In that instance, we see another departure from Mormon doctrine and Mormon messaging, because rather than going down that same bigoted path of rejecting gay people, Marriott chose the opposite direction, which was to market to gay people, to say, hey, you're welcome at our hotels, and to not donate to money. On a lesser note, they obviously also have coffee available. There's even a Starbucks Marriott Bonvoy program where like you can get points and use it towards Starbucks or whatever. And so obviously coffee is just another thing on the list of them saying, well, if the customers want it, we should give it to them. I'd be interested if you could go back in time, and if David O. McKay had said, nope, dude, alcohol is a sin, why would you want to make money on alcohol, then I'd be interested if we would have Marriott today. Mormons are obviously good at business, but it makes people scratch their heads sometimes, because I think it makes people wonder, well, if this is the standard, then why are you allowed to, why is Ballerina Farm allowed to wear a strapless dress? Well, ox is in the mire. Why can Marriott have adult content in their rooms? Well, to give the people what they want. And it's like, I think it's why the church has billions of dollars, because I think the bottom line is always about money and less so about having a very dogmatic stance on like we have to follow the rules, at least when money comes through the door. Like even for changing, I talked about this in this video about the racist past of the church. and how a major reason that people point to as to why the church changed its stance around black people having the priesthood or getting all of the temple ordinances is because they might have lost their tax exempt status. A few years before the Mormon church changed their stance on black people having the priesthood, another religious university, non-Mormon, just a Christian university, had lost its tax exempt status based off of discrimination. The Mormon church was basically seeing that and being like, hey, if we don't change our stance, we stand to lose a lot of money by having to pay back taxes and losing our tax exempt status. And
Damn,
so
that would have been so
I
good.
do feel like the Achilles heel of the Mormon church and Mormon doctrine is money. If money, as soon as the money enters the door, it's like, well, we don't need to take that rule that seriously. I also talked about this prosperity doctrine in my MLM
That's so
video,
funny.
how Mormons are very susceptible to get rich quick schemes and schemes that prey off of person-to-person relationships, like, hey, I'm in your congregation and you should try this essential oils brand. And I think the desire to have money is very strong, especially amongst Utah Mormons, where prosperity doctrine and the prosperity culture is so pervasive, and you live on the same street as everyone in your congregation and you can see how big their house is and who just got the new car. And I feel like it really feeds into this idea
with
that the more wealthy you are, the more God is blessing you and the more righteous you are. I also think this is why McMansions are so popular in Utah, because it's not really about the quality of the build, it's not about the high quality materials, or it's like, how big can we make it on as little money as possible? Because a big ass house really easily communicates success. I saw another video recently where she was like, why are all of the houses in Utah just like made of sticks? And I think it's because the bigness of the house is what's desirable, not the quality of the house. And so McMansions, I think, are a dime a dozen in Utah because they just want the square footage. I do think it seems like the company has slowly but surely become less Mormon as it goes from having a full ownership and focus of the family, the Marriott family specifically, and it's gone more into a corporate controlled business. Basically, after the founder J.W. Marriott stepped down, his son Bill took over the day-to-day operations. This is J.W. Bill Marriott Jr., quite the mouthful, but basically he fully retired from the board in 2022. The board chair is David Marriott, which is Bill's son. So we do still have the family operating at a high level within the company. If he's the board chair, he's obviously still very high up, but the CEO is not a member of the church. He seems to just be like a corporate CEO who is a smart dude and probably got the position because he's done this type of job before, but not because of nepotism, not because of his family, and also not even because he's part of the religion. I also found this article interesting. This is from another one of the family members. Basically, he got cut off. I think the article, if I'm interpreting it, he got cut off because he wasn't like Mormon enough. The church comes up a lot in this article. He's not one of the he's not a key founder or one of the key figures, so I didn't go super in depth into his story, but I do think it's interesting how often the church comes up as, hey, if you're not being a good Mormon boy, hey, if you're not doing your mission, if you're not squeaky clean, you're cut off. So definitely recommend reading this article. I feel like him as a figure was tangential enough. I decided not to go too deep down the rabbit hole of his story, but I'll link it below because I do think his account of how many times the Mormon image was held up to him as basically like, hey, if you're not like this,
bless you,
you're not part of the family fully, felt very true to my experience as a black sheep myself. To read one part of the article, it says, in the lawsuit, John says his dad told him he needed to get married by the time he finished college and that he'd rather his son come home in a pine box rather than engage in premarital sex. And so I think the Book of Mormon and the side table is probably the last remaining vestige of just how mega Mormon the Marriott's founding was. Thank you so much for watching today's video.
Oh my God,
like I said, if you haven't already, I'd love it if you guys drop some.
Alright, everyone go give the video a like. Bruh. Bitch, who? Do you have brain damage? Okay, let me find something. It's like 30 minutes. And then I found something for Teddy's stream later. Let me hide that for a second. The fuck? Bitch, what? Supernan. Okay, this is a little longer than I wanted. But hold on. Do you guys know Super Nanny? Apparently she's in an episode of Britain's Killer Kids. Hello? Uh-huh. Hello? It's titled Super Nanny Takes on a Murderous Child. Excuse you? I think that might be above her pay grade. No, she's trying to treat one after he killed someone. What the fuck? It's a little long. It's 40 minutes, but I need to watch this because, excuse you? Excuse you? With the Vic? No, they're really not. Dude, what? Bruh. Next stream is at 2 o'clock.
In April 2011, here in Nottingham, Jackie Bartlam was brutally attacked and murdered by her own son, Daniel, in their family home. He was just 14 years old.
He's not that young. That's
After
pretty
bludgeoning
old.
Jackie to death with a hammer, Daniel set her body alight.
That's pretty
he had
old
fantasized
for
about
doing
killing her
that.
for months. He'd plotted, planned, and scripted his own mum's death.
Bro.
I've been working with children for over 25 years, and in that time, I've been invited into hundreds of family homes around the world. I understand the complex human nature of children, their behaviour and healthy, functional family life. And for me, the words evil and children just don't sit well together. How can someone so young commit, follow through and execute such a monstrous act? And in this case, what motivates a young boy to murder his own mother?
Bro, what the hell?
First time I saw Daniel Bartlam in the dock at Nottingham Crown Court, I was surprised at how young he looked. He didn't look 14 years old. He looked
yeah, that's what I'm
11 or
saying.
12.
Like 14
and
is
for the first time,
like
as a journalist,
more than old enough.
I
Hello?
found out what exactly this boy
What's happening?
was charged with and what he'd done. It was shocking. It was absolutely tragic to think that a boy of that age could dream up such a plan, put it into action, and then leave the house and pretend that he was the hero that had led the family dog to safety and his young brother. Unfortunately, his mother had been left in the house and had perished.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
In 2012, Daniel Bartlam was sentenced to 16 years in prison for murdering his own
Here's how I
mother.
did the line art.
The press were quick to brand the youngster a devil child.
To find out that Daniel planned to kill his own mother and then hear all the details, it is also hard to believe. The most difficult part for us, and something that only Daniel can answer, is why.
In my many years working with kids, I've seen some troubling examples of family life. Cases of parents abusing children, neglect, and at times, for sure, teenagers pushing the boundaries. Thankfully, I've never encountered a family where I actually feared for the life of a parent. Jackie Bartlam's partner, Simon Matters, was away for the Easter weekend. By the time he returned, the bottom had fallen out of his world.
Can you take me back?
Spoke to Jackie on the morning, so it was Easter Sunday. We had a text, you know, you okay sort of thing. Yeah, I think she told me Daniel was going out with the grandparents or something. So nothing out of the ordinary. Next morning, there was a news report there'd been a fire in Nottingham in Arnold, and that's all I got. That's all I knew. And then sort of maybe an hour later, it confirmed that there'd been a fire on this particular road where she lived. And I didn't know at that point, but I knew straight away it was her house. I don't know why. Still don't know to this day why, but I knew it was her house. Straight away I thought Daniel.
Daniel was born on November the 11th, 1996.
So did he have a history of
his
this
mum Jackie
behavior,
and father Adrian
or...
got married when he was 3. He grew up in a nice detached house, in middle-class surroundings, and attended the local private school. But soon after the birth of his younger brother, 9-year-old Daniel had to deal with the split of his parents and began to display anything but typical behaviour.
Just because your parents got
Daniel's an
divorced, like,
interesting
no
character.
offense, but...
What we normally expect in such a violent incident from a child or a teenager is a history of abuse and neglect in his background, and that apparently is absent. And it seems that the only thing that seemed to have traumatised him was the divorce of his parents.
That's it.
Divorcing parents are preoccupied with their own needs. They have financial needs, they
pathetic.
have social needs, they're looking for perhaps solace in a
That's
new
not
partner
a reason
or
to kill
friends.
your mom. Hello?
And what they're not available for is the children.
Jackie met Simon on a night out in
like,
May
some people
2008.
need to get divorced.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't
And honestly,
go out
I hate when kids involve
somebody or
themselves
anything
in their
like that.
parents' relationship. Like, yes, I get that you are like the product of said relationship, but ultimately, it's not your fucking business.
I think with Jackie, it was just the way she cared for everybody. She showed a genuine interest in people.
Let them figure it
I
out.
found that quite attractive.
Like, they're grown. They can
Jackie's
figure it out.
divorce had financial implications on the Bartlam family, and it was Daniel who it seemed to affect the most.
He went from a good private school to a state school. Now, that's not a bad thing in itself, but the state school children would have probably picked on him for that, and he may have been bullied, teased, about his previous school
That's
and
a
not
slightly
found
better
his new
reason, I
school
guess, but
environment
still
very
don't. Why are
pleasant.
you taking it out on your mom? Like, hello.
He was told he had to come out of the private school and go to a mainstream school. And it was at that point that we started discussing about moving in together to sell my house and sell her house and to pool resources to buy a house. But it was at that point that Daniel started playing up.
Right.
And that's when it started becoming apparent there was a few issues.
So why didn't that actually happen? The actual moving in, if you were planning on doing it.
We found a number of houses that we wanted, but we couldn't find the house that was agreeable to Daniel.
To Daniel?
Oh,
To Daniel.
interesting.
Not.
Wait,
that
why was
wasn't
he
my
involved
decision,
in the...
but Jackie's decision.
Why was he
How did you
involved
feel
in the
about that?
choice?
Well, I felt at that point that it was
Hello?
Daniel calling the shots.
Yeah.
Rather than deciding where
What
to
the
live,
hell?
moving in and then making the most of... Because obviously Jackie wouldn't have put him in any old school just for the sake of it. She would have found the best school for him.
What did he say to her that would make her go no? I mean, obviously
he was constantly saying that he didn't want to leave the private school. And he was constantly saying that it's sort of, I can't go to a comprehensive school or whatever because he just it was below him really.
Okay, so make
One thing
him...
is for sure, Daniel was having to deal with a lot of external
I didn't want to
and
move
emotional changes.
and go to a different school when I
He
was a
no
kid.
longer an
And guess
only
what
child.
happened? We moved,
He
then I
now
went to
had
a different
find his
school because I
place
was a
in
child and I don't get to make
family
choices.
dynamic as an older sibling. Could a new
Like, what
younger
the
brother and a new partner to compete with for his mother's attention have left him feeling unloved, pushed out even? So what effect would that have had on Daniel?
I think that the time prior to the divorce, Daniel feels like he's got quite a lot of control over what's going on in his life. He knows where he is, he knows that this is where I go to school, this is where I live, everything is hunky-dory. And then afterwards, all of these changes are happening that are basically not brought about by him, that he feels they are happening to him.
So that's
He is
you getting
very
a therapist.
egocentric. And I think it is that realisation that I don't have power, I don't have control over this family unit now. Things are happening to me.
That's the experience of
Well, we know
being
that
a
the brain is
child.
incredibly plastic and is changing all the time. And if you learn to play the piano, it changes your brain completely. So everything changes your brain, everything you experience. Adolescence is a time of enormous rejigging of the brain. But it has to be said that hundreds and hundreds of children live through their parents' divorce.
Yeah.
They don't kill anybody.
Thank
so
you.
those things in themselves don't change the brain
Exactly.
in a way that causes somebody to kill.
Alone and frustrated, Daniel hid himself away from the world.
The impact of those things, being unhappy at school, unhappy at home, meant he became reclusive. And where all children explore things that are banned for them, such as 18 movies or horror movies, what children normally do is they control themselves socially by comparing notes with each other at school. But if you're socially isolated and a recluse, you go into a fantasy world.
True.
So you can see that the material that he was exposed to wasn't the material that a 14-year-old boy should be exposed to, but that's what was going on.
Okay, but still, 14-year-old boys are exposed to the most fucked up shit
Now, in
available
Daniel's
on the
case,
planet
he became more and
because
more
they're 14-year-old
angry
boys and they will
with
seek
the
it
lack
out
of attention he was getting
or
from his
just show
parents.
it to each other to fuck with each
And
other.
Unfortunately, his anger seemed to
So,
build
like-
up with the parent that he was living with most, which is his mother. And then at some point, he began to be influenced by the media to plan her harm.
And eventually, Daniel was ready to snap.
He made a decision at some point that it wasn't only going to harm his mother, he was going to actually kill his mother.
But like, why? It don't make no sense.
By the age of 14, Daniel Bartlam had
Like,
no
why is he
social
taking
life,
all of it out on his
spending
mom?
hours alone,
Like, oh
obsessively
no, I'm a
watching
loser, let's
violent
blame
horror
my
movies.
mom. Okay.
But what led him to graduate from being a lonely, troubled youngster into a teenager capable of killing his own mother?
There's one occasion that I can't remember what had started it, but Daniel had started shouting at Jackie
Yeah.
And he'd got right up to us, literally nose to nose, and that was the first time I'd had to step in, and I literally stood him. I had to prise him away from her.
That's better.
And I literally, you know, I actually did tell him, you better go out of the way quick. I didn't threaten him, but I was getting angry because of what he was doing. And he ran upstairs, and for about what seemed like 2 or 3 minutes, he was kicking the banisters, hitting the wall, swearing and shouting, effing this, effing that. But eventually he went into his room, slammed his door, and that was it.
Okay, how the fuck did I do her?
Shaking, absolutely, visibly shaking.
Scared?
I think so, yeah. Had I not been there, don't know what would have happened.
Did he do things? Did he do house chores? Was he responsible?
Side.
No, he's just selfish.
Okay.
A lot of people look at it and look at the bare bones, the facts of it, and say, can't you see what was going on here? And actually, when you look at some psychopathic behaviours, they are very consistent with teenage behaviours. Failure to take responsibility for your own actions, lack of remorse, lack of empathy. So it's very difficult to distinguish when you've got a personality disorder on your hands versus a normal teenager.
How many parents have their children up in the bedrooms? There's no communal computer downstairs, let alone the lack of parental guidance and true understanding of how this can shape and influence young children today.
I think it often serves parents' short-term needs, doesn't it? I'm knackered, I've just got home from work, I've got to get the dinner on. Oh, he's going to go play upstairs on his video games, or he's going to go just spend some time in his room. But if that goes on for hours and hours and hours, and the kind of content that the child is consuming is this extreme and this violent,
I definitely wasn't allowed to be on the computer on my own until I was well into high school. Like my computer was in the family room.
Video games up in his room?
Fully visible to everyone.
Evening times up in the room?
I didn't have a computer on my own before the age of 14.
Particularly towards the end when he got a bit older. Basically, nobody knew what he was doing in his room. Right. Everybody presumed that he was doing his computer stuff. He used to mend laptops at 12 years old. Fix laptops for friends, get broken laptops and fix them, and make videos and put stuff on YouTube, watch DVDs. And
what sort of stuff was he watching?
Horror movies. For a child of 11, 12, they're pretty gruesome.
Well, why are you letting him watch that?
Daniel's browser history was discovered
so
after the murder. It contained some shocking searches.
So when the police started looking more closely at Daniel and what Daniel was up to, they found that he had a rather unhealthy sort of interest in some pretty strange things, like murder. He'd been writing some pretty sort of disturbing, far-fetched, creative stories.
Some of the stories that you'd bring downstairs about kids killing each other and fighting on the way to school, and draw pictures of people stabbing each other and blood dripping, just things which at the time you think, oh, kids, but looking back on it now, it's all not right,
No alarm bells going off then?
This was like a year and a half before he did what he did.
Girl.
But then again, end of the day, if he's watching horror movies,
keep it that color.
Some kids are going to write stories about them, aren't they? They're going to, you sort of match the two up. But that doesn't mean that you're going to then commit a murder later on.
That's the one thing that really stands out for me in this case, is that Daniel has gone from consuming violent media to actually creating it, producing it himself. And when you have somebody that does that, that makes real violence all the more possible, because it's a series of steps, isn't it? From thinking to doing. Correct. And he's on that path now.
The extraordinary thing for me about Daniel's case is that in the end, it wasn't just horror movies and violent video games that inspired his murderous plans. In fact, it was a seemingly harmless primetime soap opera.
It's almost like...
He'd already decided that he hated his mother, that he wanted his mother dead. He'd already decided that it was probably her fault in his eyes that he was in this unhappy situation, unhappy at school, unhappy at home, and the divorce was her fault. And therefore, having made that decision to kill her, to murder her, He was just then looking for a modus operandi, a technique, how to do it. And that's probably where the Coronation Street angle came in.
Daniel Bartlam was looking online at the Coronation Street killing, where a character called John Stape killed somebody with a hammer. He was absolutely obsessed with him.
Troubled, angry, and crippled with emotional pain, it was Daniel's mum, Jackie, who bore the brunt of his ever more worrying behaviour. She had found a smaller, more affordable house in the Arnold region of Nottingham. Simon helped to pack up Daniel's bedroom.
I found plastic tubs, you know, these carry crates you have with toys. They were full when you lifted them, full of urine. Not new, been there for quite some time. Obviously,
he's not.
found,
The dad is not smart.
defecated all
I'm
over
gonna be
his room
honest.
and hidden towels, you know.
What do you mean, like all over his room?
Well, he'd gone to the toilet and wiped himself and had hidden the towels under the bed, where you wouldn't necessarily see unless you were cleaning the room out.
What was your first impression when you saw that?
I was horrified. That's when I started thinking something not quite right here.
Simon soon made another disturbing discovery.
I found a laptop bag full of Jackie's underwear, which I mentioned to Jackie, and again I was like, oh, it's getting a bit much now, and then literally Jackie said I was looking for them, didn't know where they'd gone. There's no sort of telling him off for doing it.
It is stepdad. It is stepdad. So like he can only do so much.
I think
but
Jackie
also...
didn't want to fuss. I think she just wanted an easy life, rather than all this hassle about, you know. I think she realised later that it wasn't a fuss, it was quite serious.
What do you mean when you say easy life? Because it's used so flippantly in today's society.
Well, I don't think she wanted the hassle of the arguments with Daniel, because he was constant, he was quite draining on everybody. Especially when he was with his mum, he was quite draining to be around him, because he was quite demanding, even though he went in his room. You know, everything he did was quite strange.
What's your understanding of again, why he would have stole things and taken his mother's underwear and hid them in bags?
Again, this is another thing that people have analysed really in a lot of detail and tried to say that there was some kind of sexual element to it. I don't think there was at all. It was, again, to elicit a reaction to have somebody really worried about this incredibly disturbing behaviour. People like Daniel, the world for them is kind of an experiment, and they will push people's buttons and see what happens. What happens if I do this? What reaction will I get if I do that? And they're constantly storing up this body of knowledge about other people's emotions and about what's the appropriate and inappropriate way to act.
Daniel's disturbing behaviour was also concerning his teachers. They sent him to see the school counsellor after he claimed that his tie had a life of its own and was trying to kill him.
So what they were looking for was what we call psychotic episodes, people hearing voices or having strange thoughts. And this was because he said that his tie was trying to strangle him, and he called his tie Fred. And of course, what they were looking for was psychotism and psychotic episodes and psychotic thinking, rather than straightforward anxiety and depression.
Did he have psychiatric problems?
He had psychiatric assessments, which, from what I understand, came back clear.
How?
I don't see how somebody can do what he did without having some sort of psychiatric problem.
I find his case really hard to understand the motive. Even if he was a psychopath, he's not getting any kudos from it. He's not getting status. He's not getting possessions from it. I don't understand his motivation. I'm worried about his reports of hearing voices, about his peculiar behaviour, defecating in his room. Yeah. I'd want to know more what's going on there. He's a troubling case. There doesn't seem to be remorse, but there seems to be a whole lot else that's
like
going on.
In that room together?
It doesn't
so
exactly fit to me a typical pattern of psychopathic individual.
Nobody I've spoken to is 100% sure that Daniel had any mental illness. But the one thing we do know for sure is that he was a very angry boy.
The degree of planning that he exhibited, the story on the computer, the staging, the setting fire to cover his tracks, and the way that he stuck to his guns for weeks afterwards, it demonstrates a determination, a resilience that's perhaps more characteristic of a hardened criminal and not a 14-year-old who's committed his first serious offence.
And with his cries for help unanswered, the next step he took was a deadly one. By Easter 2011, Daniel Bartlem's relationship with his mother Jackie had reached an all-time low. The 14-year-old was demonstrating increasingly rebellious and disturbing behaviour at school and in their Nottingham home. He was obsessed with violent films and focused much of his anger towards his mum.
We don't know why, whether it was revenge for ruining his life or whether he blamed her for the divorce. We have no idea why she was the target for his unhappiness.
Okay.
But we know that the murder of his mother was premeditated and planned. And where he got those plans from was the media.
In the early hours of the morning of Tuesday, the 26th of April 2011, the Bartlems' neighbours awoke to a house fire.
I was paged about 7:30 in the morning, I think, and control basically just said to me, can you attend the nearest police station for 9 o'clock, where we were going to have a briefing, and then the fire investigation team were going to go down to the scene. So probably arrived at the scene itself by about 11 o'clock. The police had cordoned off quite a large area around the estate, but obviously there's a lot of press interest. So we had to sort of go through the gauntlet of all the press and the cameras and everything.
The first we were informed about it was that there'd been a fire in Georgia Drive in Arnold, and we had reporters on the scene. There were neighbours outside the houses wondering what had happened, and we learned from speaking to them that the little boy that lived there and his brother had come out of the house with the dog, and that a lady inside had died. You could see from the outside that there was severe smoke damage to one of the windows. Something terrible had happened in there.
The actual atmosphere itself is quite surreal in some ways. It's an unnatural, eerie silence. We're there as a professional team, we have a professional job to do, but you can't help thinking this is somebody's home, this was where somebody lived, right up until the point of the fire. Once we'd actually got the area of origin into the room itself, what we would then do is try and narrow down, try and work back as close as we could. In this particular instance, we came to the conclusion quite early on that the seat of the fire itself was on or around the actual body, which was lying on the floor.
The badly burned body of Jackie Bartlem was recovered and taken for a
Feels so bad for his
post-mortem.
mom, dude. But also,
Her partner
like,
Simon rushed back
guys.
to Nottingham from Yorkshire, where he'd been working.
Later on that day again, going into the evening time.
This was
obviously
really a disaster
then got
waiting
told
to happen.
a body had been found in the fire. And once I'd heard that, all I knew was that in my own mind it had something to do with Daniel. I didn't for 1 minute think that he'd done what he'd done.
What are you feeling at the moment?
You just sort of get transported into this place where you can't believe what's going on. All I knew was Jackie was dead and there'd been a fire, but I didn't know obviously the other bits regarding what he'd actually done.
Daniel's initial account was that he'd got up in the middle of the night to use the toilet. He'd found himself confronted with a masked man who'd thrown a hammer at him and fled. And he then saw that his mother had been attacked in her bedroom and that the bedroom was on fire. And he panicked, and that he left the house with his younger brother and the dog, but that his mother was inside as the house burnt.
Lies, you know, it's all lies.
What are you thinking?
Well, I'm putting together it's lies that's what happened, as in there wasn't an intruder, there never was an intruder, and it was Daniel that actually done this. I'm thinking it's all sort of coming together now, it's all clicking into place. You know, all his previous behaviours, everything's clicking into place.
And I think it was a relatively short time, you know, just a matter of a few hours in this particular case, when the officers that were dealing started to think, well, you know, things aren't adding up here, and we're not absolutely sure that he's telling us exactly what happened.
Did he ever feel anything for his mum?
Yeah, I'd find it difficult to pinpoint a stage where he did feel that kind of closeness. It probably would have been in his very, very early years, but it's always been about him. For as long as he's been able to make decisions and to influence people, it's been about him.
So why save the brother?
Well, I think that the reason that he saved the brother was because he wanted to create that narrative of this person's come into the house and they've targeted my mother. And look, I'm the hero, because it paints him in a good light, doesn't it? If he rescues the brother, he rescues the dog. Daniel has saved the day. He's basically achieved two things. He's removed his mother from the equation, and at the same time, he's got everybody thinking how great he is because he's gone in there the hero.
Just 2 days after the tragic house fire on Georgia Drive, the police arrested Daniel on suspicion of murdering Jackie, his own mother.
I didn't know the facts of how she was killed. But sadly, and I still feel this, I wasn't surprised that Daniel...
Yeah, bears are native to the UK,
involved.
I think.
I wasn't surprised at all. It was something that I was expecting to hear, but obviously not to the point what I later found out, but I wasn't surprised.
Forensic searches of the home unearthed not one, but 2 hammers at the crime scene.
There was one hammer which was a claw hammer, which examination of Jackie's body proved was the murder weapon, but there was also a kind of a club hammer that it transpired that Daniel had thrown in there to sort of be a red herring, if you like, or to be a supposed murder weapon.
He's very typical of a lot of murderers that carry out a premeditated homicide like this, in that he hasn't thought about the clear-up afterwards. He's given some consideration to it, but I think he's so arrogant and he's so sure of himself at this point in time that, you know, the details towards the end of the story, well, they'll just work themselves out. I honestly think that's the way that he looked at it.
He really just looked at himself as thinking that he was going to get away with this.
Well, I think that he was under the impression nobody's ever going to imagine that I would kill my own mother.
But there was one particularly damning piece of evidence found in Daniel's bedroom, which made it all too easy to believe he was capable of murder.
Daniel Bartlam wrote a script in which he was the central character, and he killed his mother, and he set fire to the body, and he made it look like an intruder had killed her. Police found that on his computer. He deleted it, so he thought that nobody would know that he'd actually thought about killing his own mother. And what was something that was a work of fiction became reality.
You wrote stories about him being the most famous soap star ever and being in a soap for 50 years, and Daniel Bartlam, his longest running soap star, famous this, famous that. So he wanted to be, I think he wanted to be famous, notoriously famous.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone could have actually predicted that this is what he would do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I find most difficult to deal with, the fact that he planned it.
After denying it for weeks, Daniel, faced with the new evidence against him, admitted to killing his mum and told the police an entirely different version of events.
On the day of the murder, Daniel had argued with his mother earlier in the day. She'd gone to bed. About 1 in the morning, he storms into her bedroom and they have a flaming argument about some trainers, some new trainers he can't find. As a result of that, he's taken a hammer, he's hit her about the head multiple times, many times, fracturing both her skull and her face. He's then set the fire in the room and disappeared out of the house with his brother and the dog.
I've been doing this job since 2004. I've investigated well over 50 to 100 deliberate fires where we've had somebody die, so in effect a murder. This is the only one I can recall that actually involved a teenage suspect. For me, it was quite surprising. You've got such a young child that was capable of committing such a crime.
A lot of red flags, right? A lot of red flags.
It's unfortunately
I've
not
got
that
to ask
surprising
you,
to me.
do you think this could have been prevented?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Daniel had scripted the whole thing. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment reaction or a fit of rage. This was a planned murder. But why on earth would a 14-year-old boy want to carry out such a calculated killing?
I just don't get why he blamed his mom
People who have
solely for all
psychopathic
of
traits,
this.
it's as if they don't have the break. They don't have a break on their behaviour. Because when you and I see distress, it puts a break on. We stop. But it isn't in itself a motive to do harm. People who are psychopaths just don't stop from doing harm. This case, killing his mother, to me is completely mysterious and without motive.
Can children be psychopaths?
It's a really difficult question because, of course, a child is still developing and you don't want to say anything set in stone with a child. But it's clear that adults who have lots of psychopathic traits typically showed those even when they were much younger. And there are children who are callous and unemotional and don't show remorse, just like those adult psychopaths.
Has Daniel got the intelligence to know the difference between reality and fantasy?
A lot of people have said to me about this case, well, surely this young lad didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know the difference
he
between
fully knew what he
right
was
and
doing.
wrong,
Why would he
fact
not
and
know what
fiction.
he
Of
was
course
doing?
he did. It's been proven that he was not suffering from any mental illness. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but he chose to do it anyway.
Yeah.
The 14-year-old boy now had to await his trial. Daniel was going to plead not guilty.
This was an unprecedented case.
Girl.
It's the first case of its kind.
What do you mean not guilty?
Where I've certainly covered a child murderer at that age, and the sheer brutality of it, savage killing of his own
The
mother,
audacity to plead
the
not
woman
guilty.
that brought him into the world. The fact that he was capable of doing that is tragic.
If the prosecution couldn't prove that Daniel had killed Jackie on purpose, he was going to get away with murder.
How is he gonna reframe it to be like, oh, it wasn't on purpose, if your whole first story was that there was a fucking intruder?
On the 4th of October 2011, Daniel Bartlam pleaded not guilty to the murder of his mother, Jackie. Despite having bludgeoned her to death with a hammer, the 14-year-old claimed that he had been provoked. His trial began on January the 23rd, 2012.
I have covered hundreds of cases, Nottingham Crown Court, and I have never had a young boy of that age charged with such a horrific crime. It was senseless killing, and to write about it, although you remain composed, you can't help but be affected by what he did.
And it was quite draining, really, the whole thing. Because you've got this kid up on the dock who's 14. And he's on trial for murder. He's not this big, streetwise, thug, gangster sort of type. Just a normal kid that you'd see in the street. You wouldn't look at him twice. He's just a normal looking, somewhat, I suppose, geeky child.
It was shocking, I think, for everybody concerned that this young boy who sat very meekly in the dock, who then, when gave evidence, became quite arrogant when he was cross-examined by the prosecution. There were no flies on him. He gave as good as he got, but on first impressions in the dock, he just looked like this young, helpless boy that was completely out of his depth.
Why stick to the story in the trial? Why not say, yes, I did it? Why deny it?
Well, I think because he's still got that arrogance. He still thinks that he could
He's just
potentially
not that young,
get away with
guys.
it.
I feel
so
like
he's just sticking rigidly to the story. It's like the child that's done something naughty. Did you eat that cookie? Mouth covered in chocolate? No. And until you confront them with the evidence, then they're going to stick to that. And I think that's the case here.
Did he look at you?
went like that to me.
We're
Towards the end
watching
of the
Joe
trial.
Frost react to a child murderer.
Which I didn't find intimidating. I just found it to be him Daniel being Daniel, probably being defiant, thinking he was, you know, could do what he wants again. He would look down a lot, he would put his head in his hands a lot.
And
But not
like,
because he was
child
remorseful for
murder
what he
is
did.
low-key a stretch.
His head
That
was
was
in
a
his hands,
teen
but
murder.
peeking
He was
through.
14.
Like you do as a little kid, you know.
Like, he's not a
face at them and
child.
back
I mean,
at
like,
them and
technically,
make
yes,
mountains,
that's a child, but he's
head
not like
down,
a
but then
little child.
trying to look
He's
through.
not. It's not like he
So
doesn't
he was
fucking
watching
know
him.
better. You're
All,
14.
in my opinion, it was
Hello?
all for show. No remorse,
He
no
was
crying,
mad at
no
his
nothing.
mom
He
because
was
she like
just
got divorced and they had to
can't bother
fucking
with this sort
move.
of thing.
Like, exactly, he's a minor, not a child.
After 2 weeks, the jury reached a decision. Daniel was guilty.
What? No, he's guilty.
So
Oh my
when
God.
the jury came back with the verdict, Daniel Bartlam hung his head
No shit.
and looked like he was about to cry, put his head in his hands, and at that moment I think he realised that his life was effectively over.
On April the 2nd, 2012, Daniel was sentenced to life imprisonment. He'll serve a minimum of 16 years. But this so-called devil child could be out before he's 30, with most of his life ahead of him.
It's crazy.
Can you explain what the journey would be from being sentenced there in court and where he would end up?
Very often these sorts of children go straight into a young offender institution run by the prison service, staffed by prison officers, and the children spend the majority of their time in their cells. Their education is scant, and the ability to access psychological, psychiatric support is virtually impossible.
You know, I think about him, for example, in a men's prison, because presumably that's where he is now. I just wonder how he would survive in that prison. What his, you know...
Concern?
No. If someone were to tell me tomorrow something had happened to him in prison, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be concerned about all his welfare.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
It's just so many unanswered questions. It might be a bit two-faced, really, but it's just... Maybe it's the not knowing where he is or not knowing how he's getting on. Maybe it's that.
How does somebody like Daniel cope in that circumstance, that transition?
I imagine that he will cope very badly. He is likely to be bullied, victimised,
Hello? Why is it
and
not
he'll
working?
retreat into a shell,
Oh
and he'll
my
have
God,
to
it's doing
survive,
this shit
or
again.
he won't survive.
Daniel will be eligible for release in 2028. But it won't happen if he's judged to still be a danger to others.
Malcolm, the question is, can someone like Daniel be rehabilitated? And if so, how?
Well, I can answer the question confidently, yes, they can, because there are plenty of examples of children who have committed, not necessarily matricide, but high-profile cases like that. Are they dangerous? Yes. And have they been rehabilitated? Yes. And by that I mean, have they been released satisfactorily, got a job, had a family, and settled down, and no one's ever heard of them again? Yes, there have been plenty of examples of that. So, in principle, the answer is yes. In his case, because it's hypothetical, what you would have to do is to work with him and educate him and attend to whatever special needs there are and whatever factors there are which contributed to the commission of that offence.
I don't see how
Putting a lot of faith in the child murderer, but sure.
So well, if you like, could or should be allowed out again. And that's not because I want to see him rot for the rest of his life. I just don't believe, personally, that anyone who's done that should be allowed to be rehabilitated.
Yeah, I agree.
And in the case of Daniel Bartlam, would you say that he was a victim of nature or nurture?
So they're
Yeah, right, I
as
saw
far as
that,
we know,
Pips. Like, what the
pretty
hell?
Loving family, of course. Marriage
Like,
splitting up, but that's
who
not
was
unusual.
that girl she was with?
So there's not a lot of nurture
So
that we
weird.
can see being a problem there. I think that I'm worried about psychotic experiences there. I'm worried about something that probably is more genetic, but obviously without knowing the individual, hard to tell. Yes.
I think it's a combination of both. I think that Daniel is somebody who probably came into the world with particular traits, with particular tendencies, but I think he's been in an environment where they haven't been suppressed, they've not been challenged, they've not been confronted, and unfortunately you've got the perfect storm.
Just go through each day and you just try and piece the facts together yourself, and unfortunately you make your own fill your own blanks in sometimes.
That was something you did until you got the facts.
Still do, because obviously nobody can know the real facts. There's only one person alive that can really fill in the blanks of what actually happened that night, isn't there? He's not going to tell everyone, he's not told anyone to this day what exactly happened that night. We only know what's been assumed and what's been pieced together.
Do you love Daniel?
No. Don't hate him either.
You don't love him, you don't hate him. What is it you feel?
Nothing. Just non-existent.
I think that's valid, though.
Got no feelings for him at all. I don't know if I ever did have any feelings for him. I don't honestly think I ever loved Daniel. I didn't dislike him. But it's a fine line, isn't it? I don't hate him. Just nothing. Doesn't exist to me, really.
Do you think his mother, if she was here today, could forgive him?
I can't answer that for Jackie.
Yeah.
I don't think that's... I can't answer that. I believe in forgiveness. But there's some things you can forgive and some things you can't.
Daniel Bartlam was just 14 years old when he murdered his mother in cold
not
blood.
that young, I'm gonna be honest.
There was no doubt it was a calculated decision, even though it was made by an immature boy. As to why he did it, well, only one person knows the answer to that question: Daniel.
Are you gonna talk to him? No? Okay. Damn it! I wanted her to talk to the killer. That's fine. It's fine. Okay, let me finish this, and then I have to end a stream, and I will ship you off over to Teddy's. There we go. Okay, I think this will be better. Yeah, I like that better. I'm gonna do this. There we go. Perfect. Wait. The fuck? I made a new layer. I'm so confused. There we go. Jesus. Fucking gaslighting me? Okay. There we go. That's better. Ooh, nice. Right? Same, Lemon. I wanted her to discipline the child killer. Alright, well, anyway, we made some good progress on this. We did all the line art, and we are already to shading, so fuck yeah. Alright, let me switch back. Hello. Alright. Well. If you want to hang out with me again, I will be live on Twitch tonight. We're going to play some Hello Kitty. Chill out. Otherwise, I will be on Teddy's stream. Well, Teddy will be streaming soon here. Technically, it's supposed to be in 10 minutes. I'm gonna be a little late to her stream just because obviously the stream ran late. So, yeah. So her stream will probably start at like 2:15 or so. Either way, I'm gonna swap us over. And then I will see you guys later. And we're gonna do sticky Christmas outfit for her stream. So, important stuff, alright? Alright. Well, I will see you soon, alright? No, Twitch shouldn't be late. Shouldn't be late. I have an hour in between those streams. Should be good. If we don't run over on... Don't let me go over on Teddy's stream, because I do have to do stuff in between streams, so don't let me go over. Okay? Alright. Enjoy the outro. See you later. Bye.